Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at PGX Comics. If you're looking to get your comics graded, hey, try PGX Comics and unplug from corporate CGC. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename New 202. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu RU. Now, last month we kicked off with a PGX unboxing. We're going to end this month with the PGX unboxing. And just to give you an update, our EGS unboxing should be next month. Again, Tony was kind enough to let us know what the schedule is. And again, I look forward to showcasing those books for you all. But for the PGX, we have a nice, diverse selection here as far as like what we're going to showcase and talk about. Again, no one has to buy nothing. This is a great way to just look back, reflect on some issues we grew up with, and you guys let me know, are these books that would you like to add to your personal collection or books that you would consider getting? It could be reality or fictional. It doesn't matter. Just your input and thoughts and reflections is all that matters. Because, hey, that's part of the fun with doing this, is listening to what other people think and their assessment on these books. Now, before we dive into looking at these books, I left out one pickup that I did in the Toylanta convention that I went to. If you haven't, check out that video. It's basically a walkthrough and reflections of Toylanta held in Atlanta, Georgia. And this weekend is MegaCon in my backyard of Orlando, Florida. And then it will be Joe Fest. And then after Joe Fest, hopefully PowerCon. But this is the last pickup I had. And I've talked about the Playmates Voltron. This one's a little dirty, but they did a wonderful modern of the iconic classic Voltron. And during that episode, I talked about how I got the Trendsetters Voltron, which was absolutely the closest thing. It was beautiful. So this time I was able to pick up the Matchbox Black Lion. So this was my last pickup. The batteries are in the bottom. Oops. There we go. So the Black Lion. So I have always loved the Black Lion in Voltron lore, and I cannot get enough of the Black Lion. I think I have even the modern one, the Defenders. Here we go. Give me a second. Yep, see? Even the modern version of the Black Lion I had to get. So the Black Lion has always been my favorite lion out of all of them. Of course, he's the freaking leader of the whole outfit. But I'm so happy to be reunited with the Black Lion. Now, the big problem with the Black Lion is the shoulder. I've seen so many Voltrons where the shoulder joint is completely, because it's a metal pin in there. And then you put the red, the red or the green line, its tail plugs into this side right here. After a while, that whole mechanism gets shot. And there's so many times, especially this type of mechanism for the Matchbox and even that Trendmasters, because it's a carbon copy, the shoulders go wonky on it. So to have a Black Line with the shoulders intact and pretty solid all around in this condition, it's a little loose with the feet, and that's expected. But this is just going to be a display piece. But so to have the Black Lion, the face is back in there as well. So anyway, this is a big win for me. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, let's take a look at this month's PGX unboxing. Alrighty, so the first book we're going to feature has been making waves in news recently. This book suddenly appeared on a lot of trending lists a few months back. Now, what triggered this? Well, the second movie was an unexpected success. And the news of the series continuing on 420 of all days has also made this particular issue jump in demand. And I'm talking about Beavis and Butthead issue #1. That's right. Now, we sort of kind of seen the boom in 80s franchise with GIJoe, Transformers, Thundercats, Masters of the Universe. Even these youngsters and these comic kiddos were picking up IPs from our era. Well, it was just a matter of time before the millennials started joining in with 90s characters. And what can be more 90s than Beavis and Butthead? Think about it. Grunge music, flannel shirts, Doc Martens, Beavis and Butthead, Rem and Stimpy. I don't want to say Dilbert because that guy's in trouble. But anyway, the point is that these are excellent books. They're low and raw, but when you get graded, the price has escalated. 9.8 hitting around $300. I mean, this is a nice 8.0, but it's just a fact that I got this book and is part of my personal collection. I love Beavis and Butthead. This issue takes me back to being in Sunday nights during high school. After a football game, you know, all of us would go and hit a pool hall or bowling alley, and sure enough, Beavis and Butthead will be playing on MTV on the screens above. And boy, look at MTV now. What a joke. I am sick of ridiculousness, or whatever the hell that show. Rob Dyrdek has MTV by the cojones, and I think he's holding them hostage. That's why they're doing all of these catfish, ridiculous. This is when MTV was good. So that's why this issue is really significant. And look at the amazing job PGX did. Look at the back cover first. I mean, this is the soundtrack of Beavis and Butthead Experience advert. And then, of course, you got, you know, PGX noting that this is, in fact, the first appearance of Beavis and Butthead. Now, what's interesting about this is artist Rick Parker. You got to remember, he essentially has to copy Mike Judge's artwork, because Mike Judge is the creator, illustrator, voices for Beavis and Butthead. He was Seth MacFarlane before Family Guy and Seth MacFarlane. I mean, Mike Judge was the guy who did it first, and that is a really difficult task to create something that's supposed to look like someone else's work. And Ray Parker does a great job, because the content, it feels like you're watching a TV episode. So again, this is definitely something that you should consider and should be on your radar. And look for the raw copies. And I gotta thank Docking Bay 94. They had this in the bins back there, and it was very cheap. Maybe $10 I picked it, or $9 I think I picked up this issue. So getting it graded and stuff has greatly increased the value of this book significantly. Beavis and Butthead, issue #1 from January 18th, 1994. The next book we're going to take a look at is actually part of my dive into horror-related titles. Now, my regulars know I've been, since Werewolf by Night came out, I've been kind of exploring like Tomb of Dracula, Man-Thing, the Frankenstein, the Mummy, like all of these universal characters that are been converted into the Marvel world, so to speak. And this is something that I skipped totally as a kid, and that's what makes getting back into comics so much fun when you're in your 40s or 50s or 60s. It's the fact that you get to rediscover all of these things you may have missed while you were being a Spider-Man or Batman fan. And man, I am so glad I did. And I want to give a special thanks to Peter Parker Comics on Instagram. Now, I know with a lot of crazy stories out there, it's tough to find good, reputable sellers. Peter Parker has been that for me. He's been hooking me up with some amazing books at a fraction of the price. Yes, they are lower in grade, especially when they come to key issues. But the fact of the matter is, PGX does its thing with the clean and press, and voila, that really low grade book has turned out to be a middle or upper tier book, and I am ecstatic. I mean, who cares about the number? It's the fact that you own that particular book. Such is the case with this one. Adventure into Fear, issue number 10. Now, after the whole Werewolf by Night thing, Man-Thing shot up. A lot of the prices have escalated. Well, since that airing, things have kind of tapered down a little bit to where they kind of are at a nice level. And I think this one is, first of all, it's the first ongoing series featuring Man-Thing. It retells his origin story. And, Ted, we find out in this issue that kind of like the whole Frankenstein monster notion. Some guy, tosses his kid, and Man-Thing is there to rescue him. And then they kind of pitchfork and blame him. And the guy himself is terrible. The human that did this to his own son. Man-Thing was a good person, a good thing. And it doesn't matter what form that takes. The essence of goodness is what perseveres in the end. Man-Thing is a very important lesson. And I think now with grown-up eyes, you get to pick that out. It's not your appearance, it's your deeds that count. And I think that's why I've been enjoying this. And PGX did a great job. Yes, it is a 4.5, but it was dirty. And PGX cleaned this issue up to a respectable 4.5. The book looks amazing. Look at it through the lens. Can you tell this far back that this is a 4.5? No, and that's why I picked these books. Is because who cares about the number? It's the fact that, oh my God, that's the first ongoing Man-Thing. And of course, a 9.8, you're talking about over $500, close to probably 8 for a high grade, or maybe 1,000 actually, but a high grade, but still a 4.5 is respectable. And the fact is, it still commands a pretty, especially when they follow up with the Werewolf by Night, you're going to see prices, boom, shoot up through the roof. And I could tell that they're going to utilize Man-Thing Ted more often just because of the feedback that the MCU is getting towards this character. And again, look at the back. The clean and press service from PGX is second to none. Even people that send their books to CGC want to utilize PGX's clean and press service. I think this is great. The other thing is that there's a lot of first appearances of side characters in the whole Man-Thing mythos. So this is a very important key issue to get. And hey, maybe you're not able to get the 9.8, but the 4.5 is just as good for me. So, Adventures into Fear, issue number 10. Now, of course, the bread and butter of this channel has been GIJoe, and that goes without saying. That's why this channel was started and founded. But now we're at a little bit of a crossroads with GIJoe switching publishers. We're still waiting for the final verdict what that goes. So every month I would be recapping GIJoe. And for now, everything is on a pause. But I wanted to show this. Already got back GIJoe issue number 300. Now, this is the Jamie Sullivan cover, and I like it because it shows all the Cobras, and I think in $2.99 he had all the Joes. So when you combine $2.99 and 300, you get the whole gallery, and it looks amazing. As a matter of fact, Jamie is issuing posters that combines the two covers. But I have EGS grading, I think issue cover B or C. But I wanted PGX to do one and EGS to do one of this important milestone in GIJoe. 300 issues with one author. That is amazing. Since 1982 to 2023. That is astonishing. So what's interesting is, like, when I started recapping like 299 to 300, I was kind of confused. I'm like, how can they end the entire series? And this is when we didn't know that Larry Hama was going to continue. But at the end of issue 300, we discovered that the adventures of GIJoe are not over. There is a to be continued. And that's what I am anticipating and looking forward to. But again, 9.8, no brainer there. This is a brand new, it went directly from Famous Faces to PGX. And they did a press on it just to make things, you know, nice and smooth. And wow, look at how beautiful this is. Get the glare out of there. I mean, Jamie did a phenomenal job, and I am tempted to get that poster, but I'm running out of room in the retro room, and whatever space I have, I need to make for the classified series. So I kind of sadly had to pass on that, but I was seriously tempted into getting that. Anyway, GIJoe issue number 300. All right, so the next book we're going to take a look at is just Roy Thomas and John Buscema goodness. And it's funny how this issue often gets overlooked for some reason, but it's just a matter of time, because the way we see the MCU going with its diversity and promotion of men and women working together, there is a strong possibility that this character can appear. I mean, we already saw Werewolf by Night, so what would be a good partnership with Werewolf by Night that transitions between the horror world and the superhero world that we see? And I'm talking about Avengers issue number 80 that features the first appearance of Red Wolf and Lobo. Again, also something to note as this is Vision's return to rejoining the Avengers. So this is significant with that as well. But again, look at the amazing job that PGX did with this cover. And if it looks bright and colorful to you over on the screen, yes, it is in fact that bright and colorful in real life. And they did an amazing job with their clean and press service on this one. I also like to thank Peter Parker Comics again for hooking me up with this issue as well. So already we saw the Adventures into Fear, issue number 10. Avengers number 80. I mean, the guy is amazing, honest, reliable, fast shipping. I highly recommend, hey, instead of jumping on eBay, try to look at these reputable sellers. You may find a better deal in the long run, and I sure as hell did. The only thing that hurt me with this particular issue, which debuted in September of 1970, is the fact that there is some fading on the very top. That is why I got a 4.0. But again, when I'm standing from here, can you really distinguish that? No. It looks absolutely stunning. And again, just John Buscema's artwork is amazing. It's just beautiful. Look at Lobo. That's amazing stuff. So anyway, Avengers issue number 80. The first appearance of Red Wolf and Lobo. Okay, so the next book we're going to take a look at is actually piggybacking off of my most recent episode where we looked at Transformers issue number 1. We did a recap of that issue that often gets overlooked. I mean, GIJoe issue number 1, but Transformers issue number 1 is starting to, well, it has already gained a lot of traction. High grades of Transformers issue number 1 are very expensive. I mean, I'm lucky to get a 9.0 on my issue number 1. But this next book we're going to take a look at is kind of a prequel. Well, it is a prequel to what transpires in issue number 1 in the Marvel run. So this issue also celebrates the 35th anniversary of the franchise, which is amazing in itself. What's interesting is that they used famed Transformers writer Simon Furman, who has written the Transformers UK and then was brought to the States to continue with the Transformers comic series after Bob Budiansky. It's like a return to the whole Marvel Transformers universe. That's what makes it interesting. So this book isn't really expensive. I mean, you could pick up a raw copy for under $10, but it's the fact that it's paying homage to that Transformers number 1 by giving us a prequel story just before the Autobots board the Ark and make that fateful trip. Now, what's cool is they're faithful to that first issue, and look at Megatron with his black helmet. I mean, little things like that. The cover art is what sold me on picking up this issue way back in 2019, and I thought that it would look amazing paired with issue number 1. So, you know, that is just the complete beginning of Transformers as far as comic lore and everything. So for me, it was important to get this graded. And again, PGX did a great job. I'm a little disappointed didn't get a 9.8, but I did read this issue a few times, so I could understand that, and I'm totally cool with that. But Transformers 1984 issue number 0, an homage, a tribute to issue number 1, and a prequel to the story of issue number 1. So the second to last book we're going to showcase is kind of piggybacking what I said during the looking at Adventures into Fear with the Man-Thing, and that is these appreciation for these horror-based characters. And my regulars know in previous episodes I've been concentrating on those early Tomb of Dracula. Currently issue number 2 is being graded. We already did a unboxing for issue number 3, and as well as, I guess, down the road we looked at issue number 11 and 14. So without further ado, the next one is issue number 4, and boy, what a great story, what a great artwork by the legend Neil Adams and John Romita combined to work on this one comic. That's why I wanted to get this issue and include it in my personal Tomb of Dracula collection. The fact that the storyline is really interesting, and Dracula goes back to Castle Dracula to take back what's his, and Frank Drake had already sold the property to Elisa Strangeway or something like that. In exchange, she's like, I'll give you the property in exchange to be forever young, and because she's an elderly lady and she wants her youth and her good looks back. So she makes a deal with Dracula to turn her into a vampire in exchange for his property. And boy, that decision backfires on her. But still, it's an amazing story, and the artwork is phenomenal. And we got a 5.5. And I'd like to thank JD Collectibles, another Instagram reputable seller. It's kind of like with these individuals I'm pointing out to you, and again, you could utilize them as well. It's kind of like the last day of a con. Like, you know, you get the best deals on that last day. On that Sunday, like an hour or two before the con closes, you revisit that particular vendor and say, hey, I'll give you this much. They're more inclined to consider that offer than what they would at the beginning of Friday afternoon, Friday evening con day. So both Peter Parker Collectibles, Sun City Comics, and JD Collectibles are 3 Instagram sellers that I've utilized, and I'm very excited. And I've got fast delivery, no drama, nothing, and a new friend out of it. So that's what I like when I interact or make a transaction with somebody. And I highly recommend it. So I'll post the links on the bottom of this so you too can utilize their service if you would like to. And again, PGX home run with the clean and press on this one. I mean, it was a little bit dirty, but you could tell. Look how beautiful that looks. Then when you bring it a little closer, you see some tick marks on the side, which brought this issue down. And of course, I think a crease that couldn't get flattened out. There's a little bit here on the top. So it's an understandable. I mean, but still, the back and the front look absolutely stunning and flawless. It's a great pickup for me, and I'm very ecstatic with that. Tomb of Dracula, issue number 4, The Bride of Dracula. So that brings us to the last comic book we're going to look at for this month's unboxing. And of course, you guys know I love to save what I think is the best for last. And one of the things I take great pride in, especially during these segments, is offer suggestions as far as the next best thing. I mean, oftentimes there are key characters, key books that are kind of out of the normal person's price range. Heck, they may be out of my price range. And the fact is, I like to look for the next best thing. And that's a proper, utilizing my previous career as an auditor / analyst. That's where I like to look at. Now, previously we talked about Marvel Spotlight number 6, which is the second appearance of Ghost Rider, retelling of his origin appearance, and that book has been spiking and going up tremendously since I first brought it to everyone's attention. Another would be Harley Quinn's second appearance in Batman 577 and Batman Adventures Annual number 1, which is her third appearance, but it's in that animated series type of aesthetic, so to speak. So we're going to close out with what I think it could be a possible big bad in the MCU. Thanos is gone, so we already know Kang is there, but there's still another big bad that's looming in the background. We're getting Fantastic Four coming, talks about a possible Silver Surfer Marvel Presents one-shot. So they both tie into one particular bad guy. And I'm talking about none other than Galactus. This is Thor issue number 168, which is the origin story of Galactus. Now, Galactus's first appearance is Fantastic Four issue number 48. So they called the Galactus trilogy, which features Fantastic Four 48, 49, and 50. Behind those, this is probably the next best book to pick up when it comes to Galactus, just because it gives us his origin story. And it's often overlooked. Again, you're talking about Stan Lee, Jack Kirby goodness. And look at the artwork. I mean, that is simply amazing. Yes, this book got a 2.0. And you see some scuffing, on the cover. I love that, actually. This book looks like it is coming from 1969, the Summer of Love. Damn it. The Summer of Love, this book came out. That's why I gravitated. And you could still make out the artwork. It still looks amazing. PGX cleaned this up so good. It's amazing with the job they did. I remember sending this off and I was like, this is probably going to be a 1. I don't know. I was just hoping it would be I was fearing a not complete grade more so than anything. But I got a complete grade of it too. And I'm happy about that. They did a great job. You see some chipping and stuff, and that's because it's from 1968. I don't care. The fact that a key issue that is often overlooked when it comes to Galactus, and you saw people going nuts with the HasLab, they had this Galactus figure that was released. This is just an amazing pickup, and I'm so glad. Again, Peter Parker Comics. I gotta thank the source, and so these are 3 books I picked up from him, and I didn't break $200, but yet after getting these graded, I've gone to over $500 when you combine all 3 of these issues. That is a wonder. Not that we care about monetary, but you know, that goes on in our head. You have to balance things out, and that's, you know, I'm a Libra, so I'm constantly doing that. Whether, you know, but again, what a great issue. So I'm just so happy that I got this and how wonderful it came out. So imagine being excited about a 2.0, and that's why I am here. Alrighty, so that does it for this month's PGX unboxing episode. And again, I'd like to thank our sponsor, PGX Grading Services. Now, if you're new or coming from Mars, I was a CGC customer for many years, and not many years, for about 2 years. And as a former government auditor / analyst, I saw some scary things that kind of made me reconsider supporting these smaller companies like PGX, EGX. The fact that CGC is a corporation and is monopolizing the entire comic industry. I see some scary possibilities that could, you know, we've seen it with Toys R Us, Sears, so many companies that one executive decision kind of screwed up everything for a company, for an entire industry. I don't want that happen to this wonderful hobby. That's why I support these small family-run grading services that are compliant to Overstreet and recognized by prestigious grading houses like Heritage, for example. So that's why I support these smaller companies. And I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, and I've been satisfied with the level of service, the turnaround times, and the fact that there's been no price hikes every 6 months that you see with CGC. The prices have stayed flat, they've stayed reasonable, and the level of service you get with their clean and press is second to none. So if you're on the fence or you're considering sending some books, hey, why not give PGX a chance? And don't listen to those modern comic kiddos that badmouth PGX or any of the smaller grading companies. You gotta understand, they didn't go to college, they don't have working professions, they flip comic books for a living. So they're interested in today's dollar. They want to get today's dollar because that's what they do. They flip comic books and they don't do anything else. Well, I'm doing this because it's something that I want to preserve and leave behind for the next generation of collectors. I want to make sure that they're able to reap the benefits this wonderful hobby provides. And I'm not just being selfish and I'm looking for the long-term goal of this hobby. So that's why I support these smaller companies. So it's good. It's actually in this industry's best interest to not have one, but 3 standard. And, nothing against CGC. They're doing what corporations do. But I do have a problem with these modern comic kiddos who are bad-mouthing these family-run companies that are in it for the right reasons. They're fans just like you and me. They're not an executive board. There's not a whole bunch of people in suits, looking at the fiscal quarter reports. Our shares are up, or our stocks are up. Charge more, I rather deal with the individuals that are concerned about doing a good job so they could keep putting a roof over their head and food on the table. They are the ones that work harder. They're America. So anyway, that's why I support PGX. Anyway, this is GIJoe. Stay tuned for next week's episode, and thank you once again for joining me. Have a wonderful day.